Hi guys, welcome to the music model lectures, lecture number 2, rhythmic structure. As designing a measure requires taking care of rhythmic, melodic, harmonic components as well as repetition patterns, we will explore this one by one. Let's start with the rhythmic structure. Please take a look at the following proverb. It doesn't carry much sense, however, it carries some peculiarities which also the music does, and it has some features which distinguish it from just a corpus of the text and which make it actually a proverb. And the same thing we will see in music. We will study some peculiarities which make the music music. This actually is a purpose of the music modeling. So if we split each row into syllables, we will see that each row has exactly 7 syllables. And we can draw strong beats here, and again we see them in each row. They are distributed in exactly similar manner. We also can notice that first and second lines are rhymed between themselves, as well as the third and the fourth ones. And if we want, we can split it into 16 measures, and you see that each measure has a strong and a weak beat, just as in music. In fact, the last measure of each row can be considered as having a pause here. But this division is kind of arbitrary, as you can as well split it into 8 measures, just as in the music. Okay, so let's get closer to the actual modeling of the rhythm. So we need to define a certain model, a certain limits within which we will treat our rhythm. And it begins with the music groups. Here you see collection of notes, and the similar thing they share is that all these groups are equal to 1/4 of the measure, a quarter. There are as well groups which have duration of half of the measure, and we will use these groups to populate our rhythm, to create our rhythm. In fact, we will take these groups randomly, of course, with certain limitations, because we cannot do it completely random. Let's go on to repetitions. So we will design a rhythm for 2 measures at once. So we will just design a rhythmic unit which has duration of 2 measures, and we will unite it into an 8 measure period. In my previous lecture I told you that period can be considered as a 16 measure structure, but again it is kind of arbitrary thing. So now let's consider that we design a 8 measure periods. And so, which repetitions can be here? Let's just enlist them as they are. Of course, these are kind of similar or simple repetition patterns, but as we are here aiming for a basic model, at least at the beginning, let's just start with this. So, these are different rhymings, let's say, or rhythmic repetitions, which can be present in our music. Let's now speak more precisely how do we populate our rhythm from our rhythmic groups. Let's draw 2 measure here, and each measure is divided onto the 4 parts of duration quarter, and we then need just to take the content of our rhythmic groups and put it here, let's say in the random manner, but we next talk about certain system here. A At first, the last half of each measure we populate with the half groups. So we do not allow shorter notes here. It is because at the end of each measure, or not each, but certainly closer to the end of the two measure unit, we will have the so-called rhythmic cadence. This is analogous to periods in an oral speech, to pauses, to logical stops. These things are also present in music, and they are in fact very important. And we model the thing by artificially introducing the possibility to pick longer notes for this part of the measure. Now, let's consider some variations here. As you can imagine, exact repetition of a certain rhythmic pattern can be kind of boring. And exactly for this purpose, we introduce variations. Of course, here a asterisk and a plus should be somehow similar to A. That's why they are based on A. It makes it actually more interesting, but at the same time more risky, because if you make it too different, then you may lose your structure. It will not be captured by your ear and will be more chaotic instead of the order. So, which variations can we introduce to safely enhance our rhythm to be more variable? At first, we can unite two neighboring notes. Secondly, we can split one note into two notes of shorter duration. And we also can swap rhythmic groups within one measure. As you can understand, each of these changes makes our modified rhythmic unit different from its original version. And we do not want it to be too different, because we will then need to assign different letter to it with all the consequences, which means if this will lead to two distinct rhythms, you have problems which I told just before. So to prevent it, we actually assign points to it. The more points you collect, the farther you have moved from your original rhythm. Here, the first line has 1 point because this unity is actually, it decreases the complexity of the rhythm, unlike the second line and a third line, they increase complexity. So we can put a constraint here that we should not exceed the 3 points limit for our modifications. Of course, you can question this number, but you can do your own test and see how it will work. Also, we can do similar things with other rhythmic patterns, as you see here, to also make it more interesting. Just do your own tests. So, let's sum it up. In this video, we have talked about predefined rhythmic groups which we use in our rhythmic design. Also, we covered some repetition patterns, how you can repeat, how you can rhyme your measures, in which manner, and also how you can vary your rhythm to make it more interesting. In the next lecture, we will talk about melodic aspects of the measure, and also they are strongly connected with harmonic aspects and with cadences, so we will probably require more than one lecture to cover all these things. That was all. See you guys next time. Bye bye.